and welcome back to the channel. As you can probably tell by the quality of the video, we've actually got another discussion today. We have actually got another guest on, and today's guest I've kept a bit of a surprise because so many of you wanted us to collab, and we finally made it happen, and we're hopefully going to be doing another one later in the year. Our special guest for today is Stella from Stella and Charlie. Unfortunately, Charlie will not be joining us today. She is having a mini holiday with your mother, I believe, but we've got the girls in the background having a nice little nibble on some foraging toys. Stella, for anyone watching, can you just give us a little bit about who you are, what you do, and what your channel is about?
So I think that people watching Ashley has maybe heard about my channel because Ashley has so kindly promoted it. But I do a lot of similar things to Ashley on Pionus Tales. I do a lot of things with my Pionus Charlie. She's a blue-headed pie, and we just love to go on trips. I take her everywhere with me in her harness. We're also training to do free flight. And on top of that, I'm also a vet student. So I've done a bit of educational videos where I talk a bit about Pionus in general and also how my vet school journey is going and all of that. If that sounds interesting to anyone, then definitely come by and watch some content and chat with us in the comments.
As Stella said, anyone who's seen my channel probably knows already who Stella is. We talk about her quite a lot on this channel because she's the only other Pionus only YouTuber that we know of. I say Pionus only YouTuber because there are other channels that do have a couple of Pionus, like Parrot Bliss. She has 2 White Crown Pionus, I believe, and there is also a couple of other channels that do like small shorts content on their Pionus, but that's about it. The majority of the Pionus are actually on Instagram. Stella is one of the few that is actually here on YouTube with me and is just Pionus content only, mainly vlogs, and as she said, educational videos. And I really loved the educational video you did about parrots biology.
Yeah, zoology. Yeah.
But no, that's a really great video, very educational, highly recommend. And for anyone who is interested in Stella's channel, I will make sure to leave it linked in the description box below for anyone who wants to go check her out. Today's topic of discussion is actually a bit of an unexpected one because it's going to be about puberty and mental health of the humans surrounding puberty. Just to warn you, or just a bit of a disclaimer, if you don't really want to listen about mental health spiel, feel free to go off and check out some of our other videos. But if you do actually want to learn a little bit more about puberty or want to learn how it may affect you as the human, please stay and watch because we've got a hopefully very interesting discussion to come for you today. Now, the reason our topic of conversation is actually around puberty and mental health is because both me and Stella are going through puberty with our parrots at the moment. Quaffle in the back there is actually just turned 5 years old last week, so she is now fully settled into her adult stage, if you will. Her hormones have really calmed down. She still gets hormonal at hormone season, as every parrot does, but her hormones have really calmed down and she's a lot easier to manage and handle. Stella is just over 3 years old, I believe.
Yeah, so I got Charlie 3 years ago. Yeah, September, I think.
I think I called her Stella by accident. Sorry about that. Again, so I don't know why, but Stella always sounds like the bird name and Charlie always sounds like the human name in my brain.
Well, we're not going to talk about my puberty, I promise. Just Charlie's.
Charlie is 3 years old, so she's actually going through the worst part of her puberty at the moment. She is on full hormone rage. And then Lyra, my little bronzewing, is currently in the early stages of her puberty. So we've gone through it all between us. And as I said, it has affected me very differently to how it's affected Stella. You actually did a video very recently on your channel about what you've been going through, or briefly discussed how Charlie's puberty has been affecting you, didn't you?
I did. And it's been especially hard because Charlie has gotten to this age where her puberty is very hard in terms of how much she screams and how much attention she wants and all of that, on top of us moving from Copenhagen to here, and I'm moving in with my boyfriend, so she also has to get used to him being around. So it's just been a lot of things on top of that really bad hormonal phase. So it's been really rough for us just getting used to all of this, and also rough for Charlie, obviously. Charlie is also just stressed out. That's why she screams and all of that. So just generally, it's been super hard for us.
Can't imagine it's easy with all those big changes. And you reached out to me not too long ago because you were having a lot of difficulty with Charlie just suddenly screaming out of nowhere. And a lot of people still believe, even after the couple of videos I've made, that Pionus are quiet birds.
You're so cute! he a crow or a raven?
He's a young raven.
How have you found Charlie's quietness compared to her baby stage versus her puberty stage?
It came very out of nowhere, I'd say, because I also said to people in my Pionus guide, because I made that before Charlie had her very bad puberty stage. And I actually accidentally got to say that Charlie was extremely quiet. And she was. She didn't do much noises, only a small chirp, and then maybe screamed once a month or something. She never had any issues. Super quiet bird. Then we get to hormone stage, and now everything makes her scream. It was whenever we turned on the sink, that was a trigger for her screaming. Whenever I would make her chop, that would be a trigger for her screaming.
Charlie, thank you.
Going into another room, everything just made her, scream. And it was so weird because I was like, something must be wrong, or I must be doing something wrong, because how could she go from this super nice, quiet bird to suddenly being this giant hormonal monster? But I'm glad that there's at least an explanation that, okay, it's hormone season. It's probably that's why she's stressed out, and not something that I did, if that makes sense.
It makes complete sense, because we've had something similar with Lyra. Everyone knows how screamy Quaffle is. Everyone. We actually just recently went to Miley and me's birthday party at this weekend, and it was very, very overstimulating for the girls. It was extremely shocking. They're not used to seeing so many birds and so many people, so it was a great opportunity to do desensitization training. But because it was so overwhelming, Quaffle, for the first half an hour, screamed non-stop.
Before as well, so you can always run in. But here's...
The whole time, just scream, 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 scream. We actually bumped into Mikey and Mia, the McCaw's owners, Mummy and Daddy Human. Daddy Human actually commented on Quaffle, saying that she's worse than a macaw when it comes to screaming, because her screams are so high pitched and they are just so ear piercing, and they were just constant because she was so overstimulated. Even he said that it's actually worse than a macaw. Her screams are deafening, and that he probably wouldn't be able to handle that long term. And I find a lot of people have that same problem, especially when they do get hormonal and they do get overstimulated, or they do go through puberty where then screaming does start. It can get very deafening. How's your hearing, if you don't mind me asking? Because I think I need to go get my hearing tested. I may have lost a little bit of hearing. How's yours?
I just realized I forgot my glasses. Well, I think it's fine. I haven't had any problem with it, but it's funny what you mentioned about Quaffle, because I remember, just getting back to the question of me, saying that Charlie's quiet and all that, I remember thinking to myself, oh wow, Charlie is so quiet compared to Quaffle, because I obviously saw your channel. I was like, damn, I'm so lucky. And then you think you got the one, and then all of a sudden they scream just as much. Though I don't think it's as bad as Quaffle's, because Charlie's is a very high squawk thing rather than this very high pitch that I know Quaffle has. I don't know how Lyra's scream is, but Charlie's is a high squawk. So I wouldn't say it's as ear piercing, and she doesn't do it for more than 2 to 5 minutes max, and then she stops. It's not as much screaming. We just need to look out for what her triggers are, and then if we don't do that, so as soon as we turn off the sink and as soon as we come back from another room, she stops. So she's not someone that screams all the time or for a very long period, and when she does, her scream isn't that bad. So I guess in that regard, it isn't as bad as I might think, but it's still not what we're used to, being the super quiet, friendly bird. So it's still something that we need to look out for. But I know that you had some problems with your hearing actually from Quaffle screaming. Yeah, it's wild.
Yeah, it's mainly because she does it when she's on my shoulder and she screams directly down my ear. That's, I think, what's caused potentially some damage. I need to get it checked just to find out. Lyra, on the other hand, is very, very different. She's more similar to Charlie. She just has little bursts of screaming, and it is usually triggered by something. Since she went missing overnight, she screams more at the magpies outside. She screams at the window if she can hear us but can't see us. And she also screams if we've come home, and again, she can hear us but can't see us, doesn't know where we are. She's found her voice, as I call it. Before that, she used to make the sweetest, cutest little chittery noises throughout the day, and she still makes those noises, but she never screamed and never contact called. Whereas now she screams and contact calls when the mood takes makes her. And Quaffle being missing as well. So if Quaffle follows me out of a room and Lyra decides to stay in the living room, she will then contact call for Quaffle and scream for Quaffle because she doesn't know where Quaffle is, even though I'm right here and I am possibly in the living room with her and Jason's possibly in the living room with her. If Quaffle's out the room, she has to scream and contact call for her. Even though they don't get on, they just tolerate each other. They still see each other as well. Lyra sees Quaffle as flock. Quaffle doesn't necessarily see Lyra as flock. They don't necessarily get on that way, which is fun. It's fun.
Definitely, I can imagine. And I also, you know about it, but I do have a little surprise coming later this year, probably in August, where I'm also gonna see how Charlie is with other birds. So you can get that much. But yeah, I think it's really interesting how different they are in regards to screaming behavior and, you know, how they scream and when they scream and all of this. It's so interesting because, you know, you said Quaffle often sits on your shoulder and does these very high-pitched screams. Charlie, I don't think she ever screams when out or on our shoulders or sitting on us or anything like that. It is mostly, like I say, with Lyra, whenever she's bored or just unhappy with something, that she will do it. It's not something that thankfully goes on and on and on for the rest of the day if we don't do anything about it.
And I think that's one thing that's important to mention is if they are screaming this badly, as well as it being puberty, there is probably a trigger. The game is working out what that trigger is and then either removing the source of the trigger or simply finding a way around that trigger. Sometimes it's just a case of managing that trigger. Depending on what that trigger may be, it may be unavoidable. How has Charlie been with aggression? Because obviously we know what Quaffle's cage territorial aggression has been like over the years. Lyra has only just started being cage territorial with her bed cage, but she has been super nesty. How's Charlie been in that situation?
Charlie has been extremely weird, which is actually also why I've had to put her on a little vacation at my mom's house, because as you also say, pies are pretty easy in regards to body language to read, and it's very easy to see when they will bite. But Charlie had a weird phase where, yes, she would tell me when she would bite, I would leave her alone, but then all of a sudden when the puberty got really bad, I feel like she would just skip that and then maybe bite me and maybe not. We went through some very hard weeks where I would maybe go grab Charlie because we had to go, and so we needed to obviously get her in her cage. I would put my hand up to her, she would just bite me very hard, and I didn't get any signs. She didn't tell me she didn't want to go or anything like that. She just bit me super hard, and I tried to look for other triggers. Could I have been wearing something? Could Michael, my boyfriend, have been nearby? Because if you don't know, Charlie has made Michael her mate, so she's very happy towards Michael, and so when he's nearby and I'm there, she's not super happy with me, which has also been hard because he's not a bird person. I'm the one taking that. But it's been really, really weird with Charlie because yes, she's aggressive, but then some days she's super sweet, wants scritches and all of that. All of a sudden just changes, and it can be from day to day, it could be from hour to hour, and it's just super hot. But it's especially near her cage, so she is, I guess you could say, she's kind of nasty because it's really over there that she doesn't want us to touch her or grab her or put her in the cage. It actually got to a point where whenever we got near the cage and Charlie was at her food bowl, she would go and bite the bars super hard, coming after us. We almost had to have her caged all the time because we were afraid that, well, if we took her out, we couldn't get her back in without her biting and being stressed and then maybe just getting more afraid of us, which is also why we decided that she needs a little holiday at my mom's place, where she's, by the way, super sweet, doesn't bite, doesn't do anything, because it's a neutral space rather than the one that she knows in her cage. So when she gets to this neutral place at my mom's house, she's super sweet and not at all as hormonal as she is in our apartment.
Yeah, and I think that's something very important to mention is with Quaffle is the same in that regard, is she can look like she's fine. She can look like she can do no wrong. If you touch her cage when she's in hormone season and you touch her bed cage and she doesn't realize it's you touching her bed cage, she snaps like that. She goes from sweet and innocent to murder bird in a half a second. The feathers come up, the beak comes out all within a millisecond. And if you're not fast enough to get your hand out of the way, you will get bitten. That's just Pionus cage territory, is part of their instinct. Pionus are so defensive of their bed area and their nests. We actually discussed this, I believe it's covered in the Practical Pionus, Volume 1. Pionus parrots in the wild are actually kicked out of their flock temporarily during breeding season because they are so aggressive and protective of their mate and their nest. They are literally shoved away, so go breed, go do your thing, and then once they finish breeding and they have fledglings, then they are allowed back into the flock to then continue with their life day to day. It is a natural thing for Pionus to be highly defensive, highly territorial of their nest and their cage area. If you are having a similar problem with your Pionus of them being very nesty and very cage territorial and very prone to biting near their cage, simply be more careful with them around their cage area. Really watch their body language. And one thing that I was actually recommended by Bird Nerd Sophie, we have tried, and it doesn't necessarily work all the time because of the level of instinct that comes with Pionus, but just targeting them in and out of their cage can be a good way to actually get them away, or targeting them onto a perch that you can then carry that perch away with you. There's ways around it to protect your hands, but please, if you have a cage territorial Pionus or a grumpy Pionus, do be aware that you do get risk of being bitten, especially around their cage area. You mentioned something a moment ago, and I can't for the life of me remember what it was.
Was it my
about
boyfriend,
Charlie.
maybe?
That was
Choosing
it.
favorite person?
You have obviously been Charlie's main and only owner for the whole 3 years of her life to date. Your boyfriend has come along. She's not even known him 3 months, 4 months maximum, and she has already immediately gone, that's my human. I like him. I'm going over there. And we've experienced the same thing with Lyra. Lyra was meant to be my bird. I wanted the bronze wing. She was meant to be my baby. And she chose my boyfriend. She was like, I don't want you. You have the grumpy one. I want the guy over there. He's handsome. You've basically experienced something similar with Charlie.
Yeah, definitely. I got Charlie when she was a chick, from she was a baby. Had her firstly at my mom's place, where I really tried to just get her on other people's hand. I wanted her to be a different people person so that she could actually go and greet other people and sit on other people. And she's great with that. I can still just put her on a stranger's finger and she won't do anything. Sometimes strangers are allowed to even scritch her and all sorts of things. She loves strangers, but it was still me and Charlie, obviously, for a long time. And when I moved to Copenhagen, it was a small apartment where I had Charlie. And obviously during winter, I couldn't really bring her outside for her to say hello to a lot of people and keep up this training with other people as well. So I actually already saw sign of her not being very fond of other people in Copenhagen, because whenever I got guests over, suddenly we were in a smaller place. So Charlie actually started to, fluff up the feathers like a cat. You know exactly what I'm talking about with this pre-aggression feather fluffing. I started doing more training with other people and she came at it again very great. And she still, as far as I know, I haven't tried it for a long time, but as far as I know, she still loves other people. But my boyfriend okay, that sounds weird, but I've been together with my boyfriend for 6 years. We almost have our 6-year anniversary. I got Charlie while me and my boyfriend were still together. So he knew that I wanted a bird, and he knew that he probably had to do some interaction with this bird because they live for a long time, obviously. He would have to move in with Charlie at some point, and we sort of discussed that, all right, the bird is your responsibility or my responsibility. I have to clean out her cage. I have to train her, do all this. She's my bird. And then this happens where Charlie just chooses to throw her love onto Michael, and I'm like, well, what the hell do we do now? Because she all of a sudden likes you way more than she likes me, and actually gets aggressive towards me at some points when you're there. The way we knew, by the way, if some of you are wondering how you know whenever your bird throws their love onto another person, Charlie all of a sudden fluffed up and wanted to bite me whenever Michael was nearby. And also that whenever he talked to her or went over to her cage, she did what we like to call the honks, where she basically sounds like a goose, shakes her wings, gets down on the knees, basically saying, come and get me, you're so handsome. Michael didn't know what to do. He's not a bird person. He likes animals because I like animals, and that's awesome, but he's not very fond of having a lot of pets. So it's been super hard for him to adjust to Charlie, and me having to adjust to Charlie liking him more. But we're working on it. I know that Michael is also trying everything he can, but it's also important to understand and for me to respect that Michael wants Charlie, but he doesn't want to be as involved with Charlie as me, which is totally fair. That's how relationships are. So we just have to figure something out where maybe Michael can do some training with her or help me train Charlie to accept me more. But whenever hormone season is over, or when, the hormones are a bit more subtle, Charlie has no problem with me. So it's only during hormone season, thankfully, she hasn't just chosen Michael and then don't want anything to do with me. She still likes me. I hope so. Therefore, we're working on it, and it's possible to work on those things, which is always great to know.
Yeah, it is. And it is very, very difficult. That is something, again, you do have to consider if you are going to be moving in with someone new who isn't necessarily a bird person or a animal person in general. It can be very difficult transaction, because during our conversations, you're actually saying that Michael has been struggling with the cleanliness of owning a bird. Because that's another thing that we do talk a lot about on this channel is, don't you start with the horny honks. Don't you start. No. One of the things we do talk about a lot on this channel is the cleanliness of birds and just how messy they are. And for someone who is not used to that level of mess, it can be a bit of a shock. How did Michael find coming into a house with an animal that is generally messy, coming from a household where there's barely any mess at all?
Michael is from a household where it's very clean, it's very organized and all of that. It's awesome being home at his parents because it's obviously very nice that it's clean, and I also try and keep it extremely clean. But it does mean that we have different standards when it comes to things being clean, because I obviously don't mind if Charlie poops on the floor or there's a bit of poop in the window. I'll clean it up after the day has gone or after the day has passed, because if I had to clean up every single time Charlie pooped, I could just run around behind her cleaning up poop all day. So I'm more the kind of person that cleans every day. I go over, I check for poops, and then I clean up. Where Michael, I mean, he's not as bad, but especially with feces and poop and all of that, he really doesn't like it and has a really time handling poop laying around all sorts of places. In the start, he was, very surprised that there was maybe be poop on the floor and poop in the window, but we found a middle ground where if I see that there's poop or if I notice anything, I go and clean it up, or if she poops anywhere other than her cage, I go and clean it up. It's okay for Charlie to poop at her cage and by her cage, then I can clean it up. But we've sort of found the middle ground where if she poops anywhere else in the apartment, I clean it up immediately so that we don't accidentally step in bird poop and all of that, because he thinks it's very disgusting. I get it, and I could maybe handle it a bit better, but that's, again, relationships have to figure it out. That's sort of where we are, and I think he's been handling it super great after we got to talk about it and all of this. Probably the best advice I can give on that, actually. Talk with your partner, find a middle ground, because if I should keep it super clean 24/7 and keep it up to his standards at home, I wouldn't be able to do that, because I can't be after Charlie again 24/7, and I can't stop her from destroying a toy and putting everything on the ground. I can't keep it that clean, but I can try to the best of my ability without obviously getting extremely tired because I have to clean all day.
Going on to more of the mental health side of things and going back to Charlie and how she has attached to Michael. Obviously, we've been chatting privately about it because it has been a bit of a difficult time in many, many ways. Would you be willing to discuss just how badly it did affect you mentally, seeing Charlie become so aggressive towards you?
Definitely. Ashley has basically been my mini therapist. For those that don't know, she could take a degree in that. I don't have many bird friends, so reaching out to Ashley has been extremely helpful. And she's good with people for anyone. if they want a therapy session, that could be the Patreon or YouTube fan thing. It has been affecting me very much mentally, because Charlie has obviously been my little baby from when she was very young, and then I've had her all her life. And then seeing my little baby suddenly, lashing out, getting aggressive towards me, it was very hard, because Charlie, as you might know, she loves to cuddle, she loves to go out with me, and suddenly I can't do these things with her, because if I take out her harness, she's super aggressive towards me. If I try to train her, she's super aggressive towards me. If I try to do anything, basically, give her food, Charlie is suddenly aggressive. And I can't have this bird ownership that I've been used to from having Charlie as a baby. And then on top of that, you have Michael that was very negative towards the cleaning stuff and all that. So Charlie was basically just the source of a lot of negative interaction in my everyday life. I actually was at a point, and I wrote to Ashley about that as well, where I thought about rehoming Charlie, because I didn't want Charlie to get in between me and Michael. Michael was here first, as you might know. Just Charlie, again, being this negative source of energy. And I actually was also at a point where when I got to work, I didn't look forward to seeing Charlie whenever I got home. And it shouldn't be like that. It's also not fair to Charlie because she's obviously just stressed out because of hormones. And then I'm just saying that I don't like her all of a sudden. But it's not at all like that. Of course, I like Charlie. Yeah, just having all of these negative interactions, of course, I'm going to look more negatively at Charlie or this whole bird ownership. It was pretty hard for me because also with my YouTube channel and all of that, I thought really bad sitting and talking about how you need to think about whenever you get a bird and all of these things, and things change and you should never rehome them, to then myself sitting here and thinking I'm gonna rehome her because I couldn't deal with it or I don't know what to do and all of these things. It was super hard. We found that the solution would be for Charlie to just go to my mom's, be there for a week, and it actually worked out well because, as I mentioned, she calmed down way more at my mom's place. It's also for Charlie's sake, I want to make that clear, that we put her there because she's obviously a lot less stressed when she's at my mom's place, and she gets all of the attention that she would get in a less stressful environment and in a less stressful mindset.
Yeah, it is very, very difficult. And I have to say, Charlie's puberty and what's been happening and what you've been going through has affected you a lot differently to how it's affected me. For example, during our conversations, if you don't mind me saying, you reached out to me saying that obviously Charlie turning around and suddenly biting you and aggressively lunging at you, causing you this much worry, causing you panic and concern when you were going to work, was causing you a lot of mental and emotional stress and a lot of mental and emotional heartbreak, to the point where you were really, really, really struggling. I think it does take a person to get to that point of breaking, or that breaking point, to actually have to think, I may need to consider rehoming my bird. And it is very interesting to actually hear that point of view when I had a very opposite point of view when it happened with me. Because obviously we got Quaffle at the very start of her puberty. She's over there flying at the moment in the cages. All the research I did, all the details and all the people I spoke to, all the bird friends I am lucky enough to have here in the UK, they're getting a bit eager for bedtime. All the people I know here in the UK that have birds, they all warned me from day one, during puberty, they will bite. They won't do it on purpose. It won't be intentional. They will just turn into this aggressive little monster. So I expected it from day one. I was very lucky enough to have people that had already gone through this in so many different ways with so many different species of birds. Leave Jinx alone. Lyra's bothering the cat. So many friends that have gone through this in so many different ways with so many different species of birds. I knew I was going to get bitten. I just didn't know when, and I didn't know what was going to trigger it. But I was expecting it. I was looking forward to seeing this sweet little innocent bird suddenly turn into this little hide monster, which very much happened. Became a bit of a game to us of how do we get Quaffle out of the cage today without her biting us. And that was a very interesting challenge and interesting game. I personally think because I already had that expectation that she was going to turn into a little biting monster, it definitely affected me very differently to how it affected you in a mental and emotional level. You had the opposite experience to me. I didn't know Quaffle from a baby. I got her at puberty. That's all I've ever known. That is all I've ever seen Quaffle as. So seeing Lyra going through that now same change is fascinating to me because I've not known any differently. Whereas you've had the opposite effect. You've had this sweet, innocent little baby that could do no wrong and was the angel of your world turn into this little monster, which you completely weren't expecting.
At some point I was expecting it, but not at all in this manner, not at all this bad. And I think, as I mentioned in the way beginning of the video, all of this, us moving, I also have to live with my boyfriend and get used to that. Charlie coming in, Charlie getting hormonal. It was a lot of things. And also, as I said to you, in the moment, whenever Charlie gets aggressive, I feel like I try and laugh at it and I try and just put it off as nothing, but it's still in there. And then when it just comes again and again and again and again, it just comes to a breaking point where I'm done. Whenever she bites me the last time, I remember what happened when we really got to talk about it was when Charlie bit me. And I just broke down. Like, we were going out for the morning and we had to get her in her cage. Charlie bit me super hard. I started bleeding. It's happened a lot of times. I can show you a lot of scars, but she bit me really hard. I just broke down. I couldn't anymore. And I had to, cancel work all of that. Michael even stayed home with me. All of these things, I couldn't do it anymore. And that's when we made the decision to have her go to my mom's place for a while. I also have this trip ahead of me. So my mom has been so kind to take care of her for the whole month of June until I get back from the US. So hopefully she will have calmed down by that. But yeah, it's really, really stressful. I feel like I also try to tell people that it will happen, and then I'm not at all prepared myself. It's pretty fun how that works, but I wasn't prepared for it hitting this hard at all, because obviously I study veterinary science. I've done a lot of research on Pionus, all of this. I know it's going to happen. I know why it's happening. Even with that knowledge, it's still super hard. And I think people need to be prepared for that as well.
I agree, because in a way it's similar to a human baby. You have that same emotional attachment to a human baby as you do your parrot. It's ridiculous how attached you get to these little creatures. And it is no different than seeing your sweet, innocent 7, 8, 9-year-old who is being such a little angel and such a little dream and the perfect child for most people suddenly turn into this absolutely nightmare teenager that's screaming in your face, breaking all the rules, who's going off on one, who's mentally, emotionally gone crazy. They can't control their emotions anymore. They've gone wild, it seems. They're trying to find their personality. They're trying to make sense of the world and what's going on with all these hormones going in. I think the best advice we could probably both give any potential owner or any person currently going through puberty is expect the worst. Expect the worst. Learn the body language quickly. Learn the body language as fast as you can. Learn to recognize territorial behavior. Learn to recognize angry behavior. Learn to differentiate anger from excitement. And more than anything, be aware that the worst could happen. Your sweet, innocent, amazing little baby could turn very aggressive at the drop of a hat for no other reason than puberty. There are ways around it. There are ways you can train out of it, workarounds that you can do. There's certain training techniques and behavior methods. Diet comes into play. Hormone control comes into play, which you've done a lot of research on. I know Bird Nerd Sophie, Parrot Teacher, all of them do advice regards to hormone control. Doesn't always work for every parrot, but it is always great advice to heed or great advice to listen to. But if you do have a baby parrot, expect the worst to happen. If you are lucky enough to have an adult parrot, which I personally deem a Pionus to be an adult from about 5 years old onwards, because even at 4 years old, even though her hormones had calmed down, Quaffle was still quite on edge and still quite bitey around 4 years old. Whereas this year, at 5 years old, she's settled right down. She's still cage territorial, but nowhere near to the level that she was during her pubescent stage. So her cage territorial during puberty was like up here. Right now it's down here. Lyra is currently a little bit lower, but it's slowly creeping up. And we're expecting Lyra to be very similar to Charlie in the sense that she's going through the mild stage of puberty now. And then next year is going to be hell, especially for me, because I'm not the chosen human. If you're not the chosen human, you are going to get it the worst by a landslide. Lyra, will you step up onto perch for treat? Step up onto perch for treat. No, just kill perch. Step up onto perch. Nope, just kill. Treat. Treat. Okay. Almond. Step up onto perch. Yeah, that's a perch. You can't kill it. Yeah, can't kill. I don't like doing this. She's getting so angry. This is my nest and I will protect it at all costs. Oh my God. Okay, evil demon. Evil beast.
Pionus is so sweet. Pionus is so friendly. Pionus is so loving. Pionus don't hurt you. Pionus don't try and kill you.
You have never met a cage aggressive Pionus. Oh, that is fun. It is so much fun.
Talking from experience, yes. Yeah, why do we? Why?
Why do we do this to ourselves?
But yeah, obviously, I'm so glad, because Charlie was very bad here in the beginning of summer where I started writing you. And then you mentioned that they might get it in stages, and that because Charlie was 3 years old, I was told that they get hormonal at 2 years. So she had her first hormonal phase, I thought. But as Ashley kindly explained to me, they kind of have a second phase where it can be even harder. And Charlie could have been a late bloomer, so to say, and that this is actually her worst hormonal stage. We definitely hope so, that it can't get any worse than this. I mean, I'm just crossing my fingers that it's not gonna be worse and that Charlie will hopefully just calm down at the end of the summer, because oh my, it's so hard. I can't even explain it. It can be a different thing to see on a video how a bird reacts, or hearing Quaffle scream on a video and then having to live with it every single day the next 40 years.
Who can guess why Lyra's screaming right now? I'll give you a few seconds to see if you can work it out. She only screams for a couple of reasons. Especially like this, where she goes on and on for several minutes. She's screaming because Quaffle is in a different room. And instead of going to find her, she's choosing to stay here with me. And simply let Quaffle and Jason know where we are. She's basically letting Quaffle and Jason know that me and her are in this room, so they don't lose us.
Which is also why it can be easy for a lot of people to say, just do this, or hey, why don't you just, or do this. It's every day. It's 24/7. It's every day.
It is indeed. It is every single day. And this is what people don't take into account. Like recently, I actually posted a video of Lyra being cage territorial towards me. Let me get your water. Nah, Let me get your... No. Let me get your water. Can I... No. Madam Cage Territorial. Yeah, I can see. I need to change your water. Not the first time. It was only about the second or third time it's happened. But I thought it would be a great learning opportunity for people. So I did post it to say, look, this is what can happen to even the sweetest little birds. This is what a cage territorial behavior looks like. This is what the aggression looks like. Have a look at the body language, read it. I'm able to read it. And I did have one person comment to say, like, you are so good at reading their body language. I was like, thank you. I have 3 years worth of experience thanks to another little white rat bag that's sitting over there currently eating food. Quaffle has been my body guide, my body language guide since day one. I have had to learn to read her so quickly because of how grumpy and easily switchable she was. I had to learn so fast what is aggression, what is excitement, what is curiosity, what is fear, what is nervousness. I had to learn so fast, and I'm still not 100% because every bird has a slightly different body language. So they all have their own personal accents, if you will. Like Lyra's body language is exceedingly similar to Quaffle's 96% of the time. That's just a random number in my head. But she does have her own little quirks as well that aren't same to Quaffle. For example, her show of aggression is a lot shorter. Quaffle goes into full fluff the moment she gets angry, whereas Lyra is a lot more subtle. She only does a half fluff when she gets angry, and then it goes into full fluff milliseconds before she bites. It is so tiny, but learning your parrot's body language will help you so much during puberty. And the downside of hormones is they come back every single year without fail. However, once they have passed the puberty stage, or at least in my personal experience, once they've passed the puberty stage, they mellow out quite a bit. It doesn't go away completely, but they are much easier to handle. By that point, you have learned to read their body language much more accurately. You can predict what their triggers are. You can know how they're going to be. You know how to adapt in order to handle the situation. So even if their second hormone or second big hormone is another bad one, you are more mentally and emotionally and physically equipped to deal with it than you were the first one. And unfortunately, a lot of parrots do get rehomed in that puberty stage because they do have this massive turnover. They do have this massive transition. And it is so drastic that most people aren't prepared for it. Most people will have no idea what's about to hit them. It gets very emotionally stressful, as Stella kindly pointed out, and it can be very taxing on you. It can be very taxing, not just to the brain, but to the heart. Quaffle biting me and even Lyra nipping me, it's never hurt me emotionally because I know it's out of their control. I know it's been instinct, and I'm a very water under the bridge kind of person. I guess that's due to working and living with dogs for the majority of my life. It's a case of, oh, that happened. It's in the past. Carry on moving forward. Learn from what just happened. Whereas I don't know how it may be for other people, but when something like that happens, I know a lot of people that when their parrot bites them, it hurts their heart. I talk about them a lot on this channel, but Fruity Flock, some of my friends, she had this very similar problem, was when her birds go through puberty and they did start biting, or when they were going through hormone season and they did start biting, it did hurt her heart. It happened very personally, and it's something that she couldn't help. And I'm assuming it's the same for you, is when that bird bites you, you love it so much. It is your child to a lot of people. It hurts your heart in that situation.
Definitely. And I think not only Charlie biting me, but the whole Michael having to be here and live with her, and then her being this not as sweet as she was when I got her, was extremely hard. Because if she would bite me when it was just me and her, I would say, okay, you're a little off today. I'm going to put you in the cage. You can scream a little because I can just feel you're on edge. I'm not going to take you out. But having to live with another person and then Charlie being aggressive and all of that, I just feel like I ruined our experience living together, which is really not what I wanted. Again, we've been together for a long time, and then me bringing Charlie in with us whenever we finally do move together, and just it being this really negative experience because she's on edge, she bites us, she doesn't want anything to do with us, she screams. I think that part of it was the hardest for me. And then obviously also Charlie biting me, I did take a bit too hard, but I would say my knowledge did prepare me for not taking it too much too hard, if you can say that, because it is natural. But that on top of the other thing, I broke down. It was too much.
Yeah, and it is hard, especially for yourself, having to go through so many large changes in such a short space of time. One thing I did actually suggest to Stella, or one thing I pointed out to Stella, is a lot of this started, and a lot of Charlie's hormones really kicked in. A lot of the screaming started not only at the start of hormone season, which was January, but at the same time, Stella and Michael moved in together. It was literally the worst combination. You two moving in together for the first time, which moving in with a new person for the first time is always so stressful for the first 6 months. You're getting used to how each other lives. You're having to make adaptations. You're having to meet in the middle agreements where neither of you should change completely in order to satisfy the other. You have to find a middle ground where everybody is willing to be comfortable and adapt. You can't expect one person to stop doing one thing and do it this way. You can't expect that person to stop doing one thing and do it the other way. You have to find a middle ground where everyone is happy. Finding that middle ground on its own is a very stressful process. It's a very, very difficult process. And it's the exact same with bringing in a new pet, or bringing in a pet in general, is learning suddenly you have this new family member and you're having to make all these changes, make all these adaptations. Who's going to be the one to handle this? Who's going to be the one to handle that? Is there going to be a set person? Are the other person willing to join in? It's a very challenging juggle game, and it is very stressful for the first 6 months, and sometimes even after that, depending on what life may throw at you. Where was I going with this tangent? My brain stopped working. It's too late in the day. But on top of that, you are in one of the most stressful situations of a relationship in general, as well as a life in general. And I do believe that one of the things that was causing Stella to react the way she was, on top of her puberty, was the fact that you and Michael both were actually very stressed yourselves, going through these big changes and having to make these new adjustments and find this new way of living. And I am a very big believer that any animal is a reflection. Any animal is a mirror. They are extremely good at picking up on your energy and your vibes and your emotions. And if you're stressed, your animal's going to be stressed or worried about you. Because don't forget, especially parrots, they're prey animals and they rely on their flock to have this discussion. I know you want to go to bed. They rely on their flock to have this discussion. If one member of the flock starts to feel worried, the whole flock gets worried because they don't know what that one flock member is worried about. Maybe they've seen a bird of prey, maybe they've seen a predator, maybe they've seen something else that could potentially attack the flock. Same with stress. If one person's getting stressed, the whole flock gets stressed because there's something going on, there's something not quite right, and everyone starts to feel the same. It's very much a beehive mind when it comes to flock mentality. So everyone feels the same. So whatever emotion you are feeling, your pet will feel that emotion as well. And that doesn't just go for parrots, it goes for dogs, it goes for cats, it goes for not so much reptiles. Reptiles can sense it, but not to the same level.
Rabbits, maybe.
Rabbits are another good one. Rabbits are another good one. If you're calm, the rabbit is more willing to accept you and be calm. Wildlife as well. Wildlife are great pickups on energy. If you're near wildlife and they can sense that you're calm and not a threat, they're more likely to get closer to you compared to when you're on edge or you're angry or you're nervous or you're scared. They're less likely to come near you because they don't understand why you're feeling that way. They just sense your energy, and they are amazing at it. How is Charlie with, well, I'm assuming Charlie is pretty good at picking up your stress levels, considering Charlie has gone atomic bomb crazy around the same time that you and Michael were also getting pretty stressed.
Definitely. The us moving in and having to adjust has definitely affected her, I feel like. And especially when she screams, Michael can get pretty angry that she screams because he's one that likes to concentrate a lot on what he's doing. I, by the way, don't want to make him look like this very OCD negative boyfriend. He's obviously super sweet and whatnot. He just has his very cute quirks. But she doesn't really like when Charlie screams. Understandably, she's gonna do it. He's all fine with that. But when she does it for a long time, or she's done it a lot during the day, he can get pretty upset at her. And then I come home and I can see that Michael is upset at Charlie. I get upset at Charlie because she's been screaming while Michael's been home. And then, yeah, it's just this back and forth. And Charlie will oftentimes not scream more that evening or be more on edge because she can feel that we're not totally fine either. We're kind of stressed about her, and then she gets more stressed and we get more stressed, and it's just chaos in the end. We tried to do some cage covering. I've been pretty against that because it creates a big nesty thing, or it can for some birds. So we just didn't do it, and she's been fine with it. But I got to the point where I was just so desperate for Charlie to stop that I tried doing some cage covering. It worked in the beginning. Then after a week, she didn't care. Then I took it off. Then she was suddenly more cage aggressive. So I'm afraid that I did create a little more cage aggression by putting a cover over it. So now we've dropped that again. And hopefully when she gets back, she will be more back to normal and we can get away from this aggressive over cage thingy. But yeah, definitely us stressing has affected Charlie a lot. Unfortunate to say negatively, but on that note, whenever I do come out in the morning and think, okay, I'm gonna make today great also for Charlie, and I come over her with a very positive attitude, just a very quick, come on, we gotta go, and then step up, she does it without biting, without anything. If she can feel that I'm scared she's gonna bite, she's most probably gonna do it or show signals that she's gonna do it, compared to me not caring and just being like, come on, we gotta go, and then quickly do it. In that regard, it also helps if you maybe have a bird that could be bitey or more reactive, to maybe try and let some of your energy go onto them by just being quick and happy about it and say, there's nothing to worry about, come on, we gotta go, or step up, or give me a high five, or just overall being more calm will most likely project onto your bird.
Yeah, I highly agree. If you do approach any animal in a very happy, calm, chill manner, they are going to react very differently to you than if you are feeling anxious, if you are feeling nervous. Now, it is very difficult because when a bird bites you for the first time, it does create a little bit of fear. And that fear can be both a benefit and a negative. It can benefit you because you're suddenly aware that this animal can bite, which you should have already been aware of, but not everyone is. It is very difficult to remember sometimes that all animals have the potential to bite, even us humans. We are no exception. We still bite. But once you have got bitten for the first time, it does create a little bit of fear, and that fear can be difficult to control. I personally find meditation is quite good for calming me down, or sometimes just emotional regulation. So if something happens, let's say, for example, I misread one of Quaffle's signals, or I misread one of Lyra's signals, and they have got me and they've bit down pretty hard and it's caused blood. I've got to a point now where I just go, yeah, naughty word, and just carry on. It's literally water under the bridge. I've learned to just be okay with it and tell myself that's my fault for not watching them. Whereas other people I know, they have a good habit of, if something like that happens, they just remove themselves from the situation. They say, right, okay, they leave the room, they take a moment to calm down, they might scroll through TikTok for 5 minutes, they might do a bit of happy singing or do something that makes them feel good before they then return to the situation and then analyze what happened. What did I do wrong? What scenario was it? Did I have any of the triggers nearby? Is there potentially a new trigger? And that does help a lot, is having that moment to just emotionally regulate yourself to a nice calm situation. It does help a lot. It helps a lot. We've actually spoken quite a lot of negativity around puberty, and puberty is a very negative time in a parrot's life, both for them because they're going through all these changes, and for the humans because, as we said, you have sweet little baby going into monster. Have you found any positives to puberty at all?
I have to think hard about this one. I mean, if it's a positive that Charlie is getting more of her personality forward, if that makes sense, she's obviously trying to find out who she is. That sounds very, very philosophical, but she's trying to find out who she is. And that's in itself kind of a beautiful thing. She's been more confident, actually, in some places, I would say. She's a bit more confident and a bit more quirky and playful than she usually is, because when she was a baby, she would just sit around, chill, not do much. I found that she likes to play a lot more now. So I just got the Bertrix toys, for those that haven't seen that, and they're gone. I think there's one left or something like that. The other ones that I got a year ago, they lasted at least like half a year, because Charlie would only play a little bit with them. She's playing a lot more, and she's way more confident with things outside. She's way more confident with being in a room, flying around. She adjusted super quickly to us moving in and her already flying around, not hitting windows, not hitting anything, walls or whatever. She's exploring and she's happy in that regard. If that's hormones or if it's just age, I don't know, because other than that, I'm struggling to see the upsides of hormones, really. But hopefully there will be a lot of upsides when we get to the other end of summer. So
fingers crossed. Personally, for me, one of the positives of puberty is actually the aggression, which I know sounds a bit weird, but if you can experience the worst of it, it makes the good parts so much better.
That's
like, if you can experience the worst, and if you can go through the worst and handle the worst and come out fighting on the other side to be right, I'm prepared for the next time this happens, it makes the good points or good times feel so much better.
That's a good point. That's a good point. Definitely. I was home the other day where I was at my mom's to visit Charlie, and she was so cuddly and normal that I really appreciated it. Like you say, her allowing me to cuddle her was such a awe moment, because she's just been aggressive and hormonal for weeks on weeks on weeks on weeks. And then one day I'm allowed to pet her, and it's so rewarding.
It is. It makes it so much more beneficial. Hi, Jinx. Hi. I know. Let me finish this phone call. I'll finish this phone call and then I will come feed you. I will. I'm getting attacked by pets here right now. I've got Quaffle mithering me for bedtime. I've got Lyra preening. I've got the cat moaning for food. Oh, dear. Bye-bye then. What were we on about? The positives of puberty. Being able to actually appreciate, or be able to appreciate more, that sweet side of them, I think does help a lot. So going through the worst of it, in my opinion, is a positive, especially if you can come out fighting on the other side. Well, also, or another positive I personally see to puberty, is the speed in which you'll learn the body language. The body language for a Pionus is very obvious, in my opinion, even though they are similar to a conure in they don't always necessarily show it straight away. They do fluff up very obviously when they're grumpy, when they're angry, when they're feeling cage territorial. The Pionus strut is very obvious. You can definitely tell when they start doing that. And I find that a bit of a positive, on my opinion, because you have to learn their body language super quickly during puberty. If you hadn't already learned it during the baby stage, you learn it fast during puberty. And another positive I personally find, what was I going to mention, Quaffle? I was going to mention something else. Thank you, Quaffle. The horniness, in fact, of the horny honks. You will find out who your bird's favorite person is based on those horny honks. Who is the person that bird horny honks at? You will soon know how much your bird loves you or how much your bird considers you its best friend.
Or more than friends.
Or more than friends. Yes.
Yeah.
Or sometimes you may be heartbroken at the fact that you're not the one.
Right on that part, it's actually quite funny that she chose Michael. Also because he's not a bird person, and then just to see Charlie almost out of her mind, it's almost like she's gonna fall down the perch that she's honking from, because she's so much down on her knees and wiggling her wings so much and saying the honk so loud that she's a completely different place.
Let go. Let go. Let go.
And I'm almost afraid she's gonna fall off because of how horny she is. It's so funny. And then you just see Michael there not being a bird person. He doesn't know what to do. He's like, is that normal? Yeah, it's normal. She just likes you a lot. Okay, can I do anything? No, you can't. She just likes you.
Yeah, it is. I can imagine that's the worst thing in the world is when they present a body language like that you've never seen before. You don't know what it is. You're not too sure what to do. Like the Pionus wheeze. I put up a video recently of the Pionus wheeze on my YouTube channel and also on our Instagram and TikTok for people to actually search for it so that they can hear the Pionus wheeze firsthand. And that'll hopefully help a lot of people, because usually when they hear the Pionus wheeze for the first time, they have a full-on panic attack. It is the weirdest thing to hear, and it does sound like the bird is ill when they're not. I've already had a few comments saying, are they okay? Are they poorly? Do they need to see a vet? No, they're fine. But the horny honks for me are hilarious. They are so funny, especially during puberty. And this was actually one thing I found fascinating. Quaffle doesn't horny honk anywhere near as much as when she went through puberty. Through puberty, she could do the horny honks for 2 hours straight. And it was the most mind-numbing, stressful noise you have ever heard. If anyone wants an idea of what these horny honks are like to live with, get a dog squeaky toy and squeak it next to your ear for 2 hours straight. It's stressful. You soon get sick of the noise. You soon just want to grab them and throw them across the room. You can't, but you want to. Oh, just literally just rugby ball. Whee! The horny honks, when they just go on and 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 on. There are times when we just physically left the house because we couldn't handle them anymore. But this year, she only really horny honks now when she wants attention or she wants to go to bed. I don't know why that's become her signal, but she only really horny honks when she wants to go to bed or when she wants attention, or sometimes when I'm exercising. Not when Jason's exercising. If Jason's exercising, she couldn't care less. If I exercise and when she's awake and she's in the room, straight away she's on the perch within seconds. Lyra, on the other hand, is very entertaining. Yes, you are. Yeah, you. If Jason exercises, she dive bombs him.
What's he doing? Look at Quaffle. Look at the struts. Quaffle always gets strutty when any of us exercise.
Oh, just missed it. She dive bombed. She dive bombed it. She's gonna go again. Dive bomb.
Hi. Really?
Oh, side, Jace.
Thank you, Molly.
And there's the lunch. You are not allowed to exercise on the mat. What is it with birds that hate exercise? Lyra, get out the way.
Genuinely, I didn't know Pionus dive bombed until I saw her doing that. Jason was exercising on the floor one of the days, and I tried to get it on video and I kept on missing it. But she would start on the railing above the curtains and she would just dive down and then back up to her perch. And after a few minutes, she'd dive down again and back up again. It was the most hilarious thing because I've seen cockatoos dive bomb during horny season. I've known macaws and I've known Amazons to dive bomb during horny season. I've never known a Pionus to do it. I didn't know Pionus did it. They do. They can still dive bomb.
Is it an aggressive dive bomb, or do they just does she just fly down and up again?
Fly down and up again. Not so much attack. I think if it was me, it might go into attack mode. And I do know of people whose Pionus have dive bombed them from across the room. So literally flew across the room to attack them because they're not their preferred human and they were too close to the preferred human, and cage territorialness and everything comes into play. Exactly. Everything comes into play. I have known Pionus to literally dart across the room to attack someone in order to like get them out of their territory. But I have never known a Pionus to just swoop down and just it's hilarious. And that's another thing. Have you found any triggers that cause Charlie to, what's the word? I know the word. It's been a long day. Strut. Have you found any of Charlie's strutting triggers yet?
Charlie, I have only seen her strut once, and it was super random. She doesn't really strut at all.
Wow.
She will honk a lot when we do training, recall training, and especially when I ask her to spin. She just goes around in a spin like meh, 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 while she does the spin. It's a super slow honky spin. And then whenever I call her, she comes, she sits, meh, gets the treat, meh, flies off, meh. So a lot during training. And then I have the new corner perch that I made. That's the only place I've seen her strut. And she honked a bit, then she strutted, and I was like, whoa, she can do it. Never seen her do it since. She's not really a strutter, but the honks are they're there to stay. That's for sure. It doesn't sound like they're as bad as quaffles. Charlie's I could listen to for a long time. They're not squeaky or anything like that. It's a very low honk. Sounds a lot like a goose, actually. not super high pitch or anything. It's not that bad, and she doesn't do it for so long. I can always just put her away in the cage and she's distracted. If Michael is sitting on his computer and Charlie is on the top of the cage and he talks to her, she will sometimes do it because Michael is her preferred human. He gives her attention. She gets all horny. Training and Michael are her triggers for honking. Doesn't do the strutting at all.
That's interesting because we've shown videos of our Instagram and TikTok and everything of Lyra strutting.
You cannot be like this. No. Strut. Yes, you do the Lyra strut.
And she mainly struts on the cages and the top of the door over there. But she mainly struts in those two locations. We don't really see her strutting very often. It's sort of like a magic moment when it happens. It's quite literally walk along and then you just look and like, oh, she's strutting. Sorry girls. That scared him a little bit. But it is very much a shock moment of, oh, she's doing it. And then it makes me giggle so much because she only really does it towards me. And then if Jason walks in the room, she suddenly puts down all her feathers like, hi, Daddy, I'm not doing anything. Like, yes, strut at me, act innocent when your dad's around. Okay, I get the message. But I think that is another benefit of puberty is once you've gone through the worst of it or once you've experienced some of the worst of it, you can look back and laugh and giggle at some of the funny parts of it, like the horny honks, like the strutting. You can see the funny side of it. Lyra actually hasn't started her horny honks yet. She almost started. She was on Jason one of the days and she was nestled against his arm and he was scritching her and you just saw her wings briefly go and both me and Jason looked at each other, were like, uh-oh. No, we're okay. She stopped.
Lyra just did the horny honks. She just did the horny honks for the first time. Oof. There they are. This is very different behaviour from Quaffle.
You're very different to Quaffle, yet very similar.
Because we don't know how bad she's going to be. We're expecting the worst. We're expecting her to be like what Quaffle was and go for 2 hours straight if Jason is just sitting in the room. Because that's all it was for Quaffle. It's just, I was there. So therefore, that made her horny. And she was squeak and squeak and squeak along. So we don't know what it's going to be like with Lyra. We don't know yet how she's going to act. We don't know whether or not she's going to be like Quaffle. We don't know whether or not she's going to be like Charlie. It's going to be very fascinating and very interesting to watch. Anyway, I think this video is already long enough. And as I said, we are planning to do another one later in the year. Hopefully finding out how Stella has got on after puberty and seeing how she's handled it, how it's happened at the end, and what has been the results of the puberty or the challenge of the puberty, and hopefully how you've managed things, how you found workarounds, how you found ways to help yourself emotionally or help with the levels of stress and levels of worry and things like that. Is there anything you would like to add to the video or add to everyone watching before we close off?
I think we've covered a lot, but remember, hormone season is hell even for bird owners who are prepared, who know a lot, knows a lot about body language, all of that. It's so hard mentally, it's so hard for your bird. But you know what? I'm looking forward to that part where I can laugh at it. I'm almost there, but I'm looking forward to looking back and be able to laugh. But just remember, there's another side to it. If you can get through this very hard stage, you will hopefully end up with a bird that just loves you, a bird that you can have a companionship with for the rest of your lives. Remember that and see hormone season as a way to just read your bird's body language, learn all of their signals, all of their small quirks, and really see their personality just bloom. I am probably also going to cover this a bit on my channel, talk about what I'm going through in some vlogs. And as mentioned, I have a little sort of surprise in August, which is hopefully going to be something that can calm Charlie down a bit, is my hope. You'll have to wait and see. And remember to get Ashley's Patreon for therapy sessions. They're super helpful.
Maybe that's what I should do, like start a therapy session. But honestly, it has been wonderful to have you on as a guest. And if it does actually give you or any of our viewers any form of comfort, I met a wonderful little blue-headed Pionus called Bella at the weekend, who is owned by crimson-bellied Double Trouble, and she's 10 years old, and she is just like Charlie was as a baby. She is so sweet, so well-natured, so calm, and just the bestest little girl. She is so lovely. She is only within her first couple of months of actually living with crimson-bellied Double Trouble, so who knows, in a few more months' time when she's more settled, it may change. She has been wonderful to meet because she is what Quaffle will become, or what Quaffle is starting to become already. As I said, Quaffle is already on the downhill from puberty. She is really settling down. She is so much easier to handle. And I am actually looking forward to the next 5 years, knowing that it's just going to get a little bit easier every single year. We obviously still have Lyra's more difficult year yet to come. We are trying to document and actually get as much knowledge and experience as we can through people like Stella, through other Pionus owners that are actually going through similar things, so that we can actually see the differences in different Pionus through puberty, to see whether or not Lyra goes through normal puberty or whether or not she goes through Quaffle level puberty, which is the fascinating thing in itself. I am really, really hoping that one of the reasons people go on and on and on about these amazing birds and these amazing Pionus creatures is because once they do get through puberty, they do start to be more like Bella, and they are more calmer, are more sweeter. So that's what is going to be the most exciting for us to see, in my opinion, is whether or not they do get to that stage. But thank you very much for watching, guys. Once again, if you do want to check out Stella and Charlie's channel, I will leave a link in the description below for you to go check them out. They are currently the only other Pionus dedicated YouTube channel here on YouTube, as well as myself. So they are always a great resource to go and check out. With Stella being a veterinary student, they have a lot more educational type content when it comes to the biology of birds, when it comes to the general behavior, and also the background that you wouldn't necessarily expect. And they do have amazing vlogs. I really, really love your vlogs. They are so aesthetic and so comfortable and pleasing. They're just one that you like to turn on and just have sort of playing in the background just to appease your eyes. They are just so lovely to watch. They really are. If anyone wants to go check out their channel, please do so. It is an amazing channel and they've got so many great and amazing informative videos already.
And thank you so much, Ashley, for having me. I think it was bound to happen at some point, right? And I know some people have been asking for it. So it was super lovely talking to you. And hopefully there will be more videos like this to come, because it's super nice chatting with someone that also knows a lot about Pionus. And it's important to talk about, I think, because people often do forget this super hard time in parrot ownership and only think about it when people do rehome their birds and see the negative in it. So it's important to talk about. Reach out to your bird friends, talk about it with them.
I agree completely. And again, this isn't going to be the only time we actually do this. We are already planning a second collaboration with Stella. Hopefully we're going to be doing one for Stella's channel eventually as well, which will hopefully be covering a different topic. So once that video is available, if it is ever available, I will also link that in the description below as well. But thank you ever so much for watching, guys. I hope you've actually learned something from this in some way, shape or form. And I hope... What am I trying to say here again? This is how my videos go. I always end up pausing, going, and then cutting it all out later on. But thank you ever so much for watching, guys. I hope you found this educational or knowledgeable in some way, shape or form. And again, if you do have any questions, queries or comments, please leave them in the comments description below. And if you are super excited for Stella's surprise, which we are not going to tell you what it is. Yes, I am privy to what that surprise is. And no, I am not going to spill the tea. But if you are super excited for that, please go subscribe to Stella's channel. And if you have found this video informative in any way, don't forget to give us a subscribe and notification as well. And another thing you can leave us in the comments is there anyone else who would... And another thing you can do is if there is anyone else you would like to see us have a collaboration with, please leave them.
It's always at the end they do this, or when you just need that last or first clip, they start doing it.
Right? If there is anyone else you would love to see us have a collaboration with, please let us know in the comments below and we will try and make it happen. We can't guarantee it, but we will do our best to make it try. We've hopefully got a collab coming up with Bird Nerd Sophie soon, as well as a couple of other people that said they are willing to collab with us as well. So keep an eye out for those videos, as well as the educational content we've got coming. I'm still recording and editing that damn next video. Lyra's getting stressed with it as well. She's getting fed up of waiting for this next video, as you can tell. Yeah, you're doing a great job there, Lyra. Yeah. Well, thank you ever so much for watching, guys, and we'll hopefully see you in a future video. Bye-bye.